Hey YouTube, this is my Phantom Blaster build for Shadows. It is not a Revenger build, contrary to what you see here. I just happen to have Revenger cards as the top for each pile. Now, this is built more specifically around Phantom Blaster Dragon, because I consider it by all means to be my avatar card. And I love it because Damned Charging Lance is the greatest name for an attack I've ever heard in a long, long time. Anyway, so to start things off, we have for Revenger Phantom Blaster Abyss. He is one of the two win conditions to the deck, or at least half of one of the two win conditions, because of his restanding ability. However, because of the fact that you can only do it during the turn you perform Legion, I decided to change things up because most of the time people will pair him up with Blaster Dark Diablo, which I did at regionals, and it works fairly well except for if you ride Blaster Dark early, it means you don't have rear guards with effects for the most part, which was kind of bad, as you can imagine. Now, the other half of people will usually pair him up with Illusionary Revenger, Mordred Phantom, because Mordred is both a Revenger and a Phantom unit, so units such as Judge Bow over here will still work because it is a Phantom, and Blaster Dark over here will work because Mordred is a Revenger. Now, I like Mordred, don't get me wrong, I love the card, but I don't think it's enough of an effect for it to work properly with Phantom Blaster Abyss. For him to work properly, you need to have an effect that will actually make it something for people to worry about. 30 something coming to the face? Not much of a big deal. However, when comboed with the next card, fairly well. We have 4 Phantom Blaster Dragons, Break Ride Edition. Yes, I actually got them. I had a lot less trouble getting these than I did my original Phantom Blaster Dragons, which I got 4 of, as well as 2 SPs that I bought at the 2014 regionals. Anyway, for those of you who do not know, when you ride Phantom Blaster Dragon, at least this version, if you sacrifice a rear guard, you can add any unit with Blaster from your deck to your hand. This can be a grade 1, 2, 3, or even a 0 if you can find a grade 0 Blaster. Now, usually people will use him, or I suppose I will use him, to fetch a grade 3 so that I can stride. So I will sacrifice a unit that I used to early rush to be able to stride on the next turn or on that turn. You can also use it to fetch something such as Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss here, to set up a play for later. He is really good. His Break Ride ability, on the other hand, is even better, because when you Break Ride him, you Soul Blast 3 cards, so basically the 1, 2, and 3 being himself, because even if you Soul Blast himself, it still counts, because the ability is transferred onto your current Vanguard. So you Soul Blast 3, and then your Vanguard gains 10,000. Then when you attack, by sacrificing 3 rear guards, you get to unflip 3 damage, draw 2 cards, and your opponent is prevented from guarding with grade 1s and higher. So literally glory effect with extra bonuses. Now, that effect is not limited to once per turn, so if you can pull it off, you can use it on both of Phantom Blaster Abyss's attacks. Meaning that that's 30 something, plus no guarding with perfect guards coming at you possibly twice in the same turn. That is why it is game winning. That is why this combo here is one of the 2 win conditions. Because it is amazing. He is a Phantom unit, hence he works with Judge Bow. Unfortunately, he's not a Revenger, but I still have ways around that. And I love that card. We only pulled 2 at our locals, and I had to get the other 2 up at regionals. That's why I couldn't play this deck then, because I only managed to get them after I submitted my deck list. So for grade 2s, we have 4 Revenger Phantom Blaster Abyss, or not Phantom Blaster Abyss, sorry, Blaster Dark Abyss, although I was close because he is the Legion mate for Phantom Blaster Abyss. So on call, Counterblast 1 if you have a Revenger Vanguard, pop a grade 1 or less. Believe it or not, and this is going to sound weird, if it wasn't for the fact that Phantom Blaster Abyss is his Legion mate, I would rather be using Blaster Dark Revenger, because Blaster Dark Revenger can hit something they can intercept with. And intercepting actually bypasses the glory skill that Phantom Blaster Dragon gives to your Vanguard. But still, this guy is still able to snipe starters as well as certain pesky boosters. or even if they have a 10k attacker. So he works well enough. He's actually still really good, and he is a staple by most people's terms. I don't personally think so, but he puts in work in the deck, so I can't really complain about it. And no, I have no Legion Rare, sadly. Out of the like 12 Phantom Blaster sets that we have pulled, like pairs, none of them have been Legion Rare. So yeah. 4, Dark Knight Maiden Maha. She is from the Ren deck that had come out a while back. I have a full playset of everything from there being shiny because I bought 2 decks, and then 2 of the guys from locals were kind enough to switch with me for their holo versions because they don't like rare stuff. So yeah, that was cool of them. So Maha she is used to help fill out the field as well as thin out the deck by calling out extra grade 1s from the deck. Plus, it lets me fill for my sacrifices needed for either Phantom Blaster unit or even my strides. She's easy to use because all it is GB1 and you counterblast 1. Really nice, and she can call out another attacker. Next up, we have 4 Fierce Bow from the World Championship qualifiers. He is essentially Knight of Fragments for Shadows, and for those of you who don't know what that means, GB1, if I have 1 or less rearguards in the back row, on hit, I get to unflip a damage and soul charge 1. Plus, on top of that, he gains an extra 2,000 during the attack. So he's able to swing for 11 to the opponent's Vanguard. And if it hits, yeah, I'm more likely to pull off my skills. Mainly there for the fact that he can hit on his own, but the soul charge is also nice for helping for Phantom Blaster Dragon. I keep pointing there because he's under there. But yes, he helps set up my plays for later. Or worst case, he's just a 11k beater. Also, for the record, if you cannot get this card, because I know they're a entry card, then I would substitute for Knight of Nullity Masquerade, the original 12k Blaster attacker, or 12k attacker for Blaster, sorry. But for now, I use him. But yes, Masquerade will generally do the same thing except for the Soul Charge, which you can use Howl Owl instead to help fix. Now, for grade 1s, we have 4 Transient Revenger Masquerade. Much like Blaster Dark does, he basically serves the purpose of being a Revenger. I forgot to mention, but yes, Blaster Dark and this guy are the only Revengers in the main deck outside of Triggers and my starter, and Phantom Blaster Abyss himself. Because the point is to use effects that work around having a Blaster Vanguard, not specifically Revengers. So yeah, basically for early game, he rushes for an extra 10k attack. Later, he is a booster. Also, he is a Revenger, hence a sacrifice for Phantom Blaster Abyss. Simple as that, quite frankly, and Maha can call him. Next up, we have a key linchpin to the big turns. 3, Pitch Black Sage Karen. Now, Karen here is a very, very helpful unit. If you have a Blaster Vanguard, he counts as 2 sacrifices, meaning that I can have Revenger, 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 Karen, and say a Maha. So when I boost and swing, I can sacrifice the already attacked column here to get my Phantom Blaster Dragon skill off, even though he normally requires Revengers. The skill for Phantom Blaster Dragon will transfer onto here, and it still counts as a blaster because he is Phantom Blaster Abyss. However, if you do this with something like if you break ride Claret Sword Dragon or something else over him that is not a blaster, you can't do it because the effect will be considered as that unit's effect. So, for example, it would be a Claret Sword skill. You cannot use Karen with that, but you can do it with this. And the other skill of fetching a Blaster Dark Diablo is pointless because, as you've guessed by now, there is none in the deck. He is also a 7k booster. Now, next up we have 2 Darkheart Trumpeter. Darkheart is here because I'm able to Soul Blast 1 to call any grade 1 or less from the deck. Now, there's combos with this because of how things can work. This is going to be weird and very situational, but it's actually happened a couple times. So, People have this tendency with Judge Bow here that they will guard it so that it will not go off. Even if they have no means to get rid of it, they will just keep guarding it so that it will not go off. Basically, what you do is during the turn you perform Break Ride in Legion. You call 3 Revengers, or even just 2 Revengers, and then have Judge Bow and 2 units here, 1 Karen and 1 of something else. You Legion back a Karen and a Trumpeter into the deck if you don't have one of each in the deck still. So you attack with the column, then you boost and attack with Vanguard. Or sorry, you attack with the column, attack with the other column, boost, attack with Vanguard, sacrifice this column. The opponent can't guard with grade 1s or higher, meaning that they are most likely to be able to unable to guard. You unflip the 3 damage, draw your 2 cards. The attack hits, Judge Bow moves in, counterblast 1, fetch out Trumpeter and Karen. Then the Trumpeter skill, Soul Blast 1, Superior Call another unit, which would probably be a Revenger, and then you sacrifice the 3 Revengers and stand your Vanguard, meaning that for the next attack, you have access to the Karen and the Trumpeter on this side to be able to use the skill again. It means that both times that you are attacking, your opponent is going to have to deal with the Glory skill, plus you're unflipping the damage that you used to counterblast for the stand, and you've gotten an extra 4 cards in hand. So this is one of those cases where you actually want Judge Bow to go off early, or rather your opponent does. Because the later that it goes off, the more likely they are to lose because of it. But yes, and also I should mention that Trumpeter is also there, partly because of how it's going to work is when you Soul Blast the 3 units, when Judge Bow goes in, that is another unit to Soul Blast, that is your 4th Soul Blast, which is for Trumpeter. Or if you don't get the Break Ride and you just ride Abyss, you can use them to help fill out the field. Simple as that. The only condition is that you cannot call another Darkheart Trumpeter, which is a shame, but I can understand why, because it'd be kind of spammy. Next up for the Perfect Guards. I know, it's not Karma Collector. Weird, isn't it? It is for Little Skull Witch Nevin, because Karma Collector is extremely unnecessary in this build since you unflip like a madman. You can burn all the counterblasts you want and you will still be able to unflip and use more. I will go through on average approximately, I want to say about 9 to 10 counterblasts per game and still have more, like more unflips available. So yeah. So instead of Karma Collector, which is the unflip, all she does is if you have another copy of herself in the drop zone, you get to draw a card, then drop a card. So draw one and discard one. Meaning that you get to see what you draw first, then decide what you want to discard. Which is actually really handy because it's come in handy a couple times for me where I would top deck another one of her just so that I could guard the next attack. When I only had, say, a grade 3 and like a draw trigger or something in hand. So I just drop either one and then use her skill for the next one. It's really nice. She's really good to have. And again, probably weird for people to see it without using that when it's available, but yes. So, starter, we have Judge Bow. Both Vanguards are Phantom, so why not? There is a reason I'm not using David, because Karen fulfills the same purpose. And for the strides, I will explain that after. But there are no aura geysers, so that is why Judge Bow is there, because I will always have a grade 3 or above Phantom unit, and combine him with Grim Recruiter, your opponent's going to have to debate as to if they want to let him hit, so that you get less likely chances of having the double glory skill, or if they want you getting an early up to like 4 grade 1s. So yeah, it's really good. You'd be stupid to not use him in this build. For triggers, we have 8 crits, so 4 Grim Revenger. The 4, there we go, 4 Undead Angels. They are shiny. I figure why not. I do have the original Airy Dragons available still, but I prefer the shiny for now. Who doesn't prefer shiny? 4 draw triggers, which are the Revenger, Freezing Revenger. You could use Howl Owl instead to help fulfill the soul cost if you don't have Fierce Bow. So you would be taking him out for Howl Owl and Fierce Bow out for Nullity Masquerade, which means you're doing basically the same thing, but I like to keep him instead because it gives me an extra Revenger if I need it. Hence why all my triggers are Revengers. Spoiler, yeah, 4 healing Revenger because, heal triggers, important. you kind of lose if you don't have them most of the time. Now, for strides, we have the 4 obvious other win condition, 4 Phantom Blaster Diablo. He is obvious other half of, like, other win condition for the deck because he is another Phantom Blaster unit. Basically, when you swing, sacrifice 3 rear guards. If you've already counterblasted one and unflipped a copy of himself, then you gain 10k, a crit, and your opponent cannot guard unless they sacrifice 2 rear guards. So there's been quite a few times where the opponent has either been unable to sacrifice because they forget about him and they just leave themselves with a low field, or that they just don't have enough hand, especially if you have a booster behind him. So yeah, sacrifice like a Karen and Trumpeter on the side again, then boost and swing, even with him and just Judge Bow. That's 41,000 coming at you. So yeah, people don't like that. He's really, really good. Then we have 2 True Revenger, Drag Ruler Revenant. Now, he is the tech instead of Aura Geyser because Aura Geyser requires Soul Blasts, and I don't want to go too Soul heavy. So with him, I can just stride him on top of Phantom Blaster Dragon. I have an Instant Revenger Vanguard. Or if I use it with Phantom Blaster Abyss, sacrifice like a draw trigger or something, call Transient behind Vanguard. That is a 39,000 swing at Vanguard. Or even if I just call any 7k booster, that's really nice. Like, if I use a skill, call something behind here, then he still gains 3, so meaning that he's minimum 36 if I have a 7k booster behind him. He's really good. And he is a 2 of because of that. The last 2 are 2 Dark Knight Grim Recruiter. Yes, I recall mentioning I got 2 of the deck, so that is why I have 2. He is on hit, call a grade 1 or less from your deck. He's really good for using with Judge Bow because the pressure there is ridiculous. Because being on him meaning that your GB1 is active, so Trumpeter can call out stuff, Judge Bow can call out 2 units, and he can call out a unit. So you can almost have a full field just from him hitting with Judge Bow behind him. People do not like when that happens. So yes, as you've seen, my build allows for a lot of potential shenanigans, and there is a psych out factor in there. Actually, there's a couple of them in there, but it just requires a lot of practice to learn how to play it. And I'm still even screwing up now and then, but it's really fun, and I love it. This is the kind of deck that I've been working towards getting for a long time. So anyone who wants to try it, be my guest. I wish you luck. Talk to you guys later. Next build coming up is either the Claret Sword deck, Silverthorn, Overlord, or Glendios. Probably not Glendios because it's basically a staple build, but any of these 3 can be coming up next. Alright, later guys.